The WNBA All-Star draft was fun between Caitlin Clark and Napheesa Collier, the team captains, picking the players, picking the rosters. But the most interesting aspect was the coach swap, because Clark traded Cheryl Reeve, who was the coach of her team, or was to be the coach of her team, to Collier for Sandy Brondello, the coach of the New York Liberty.
Oh, Caitlin Clark just made the funniest All-Star selections ever. She just picked her friends. She made sure she picked no ops, as people like to call them. She made sure there were no ops on her team. If she's played with a player before, like Sonia Citron, she picked her. Gabby Williams, she picked nobody that's tweeted a negative thing about her. She's picked nobody that has said a negative thing about her in the media. She picked none of her rivals.
What just happened in the WNBA wasn't a highlight, it was a power shift. On live national TV, Caitlin Clark didn't just trade a coach. She took control of her narrative, fired the woman who once snubbed her from Team USA, and sent shockwaves through the league with a move no player has ever dared to make. This wasn't petty, it was calculated. And now, everyone's asking the same question. Did Caitlin Clark just change the balance of power in the WNBA forever? Under the bright spotlight of the WNBA All-Star draft, an unexpected moment unfolded that would captivate the sports world and shift the narrative around Caitlin Clark's evolving legacy. What was expected to be a lighthearted roster selection between Clark and her co-captain, Napheesa Collier, quickly transformed into a power move when Clark traded her assigned coach, Cheryl Reeve, for Sandy Brondello of the New York Liberty, live on ESPN. This move wasn't just about preference. It symbolized a much deeper rift between player and coach, rooted in months of subtle disrespect and visible tension. Reeve, known for her role as Team USA coach and head coach of the Minnesota Lynx, had long been criticized by fans for her lack of support toward Clark, especially during the Olympic snub where Clark was noticeably absent from the final roster despite her record-breaking performance. Clark's live declaration, "I don't know if this is in the rules. I don't really care," wasn't flippant, it was calculated. It marked a moment where the rising star publicly severed ties with a figure perceived to have undermined her growth, and did it without flinching. What followed was not only a wave of support from fans, but a reframing of who holds power in professional sports, the coach or the player. Reeve, blindsided and publicly displaced, appeared caught off guard, while Clark moved forward confidently, shifting the entire tone of the All-Star event from playful to historic. The layers to this story run deep, especially when you examine the documented history between Clark and Reeve. Months before the All-Star trade, Reeve had made thinly veiled comments in press interviews and on social media that many interpreted as shots at Clark's growing fame. Whether it was the infamous #12teams tweet or her silence when asked about Clark's Olympic exclusion, Reeve's actions painted a picture of a coach resistant to the new wave of stardom Clark represented. While Clark continued to shatter records, draw massive crowds, and boost viewership, Reeve seemed to position herself as a gatekeeper of the old guard, a figure skeptical of one player's influence in a team-centric sport. For fans, it was never just about missing the Olympics. It was about a culture that downplayed Clark's accomplishments, and Reeve stood at the center of it. Clark, who remained poised and silent through the early months of tension, chose the All-Star stage as her moment to respond, not through words, but through action. The decision to trade Reeve wasn't random. It was the culmination of months of feeling minimized by a figure who, rather than mentor or support, chose to critique. And in a league hungry for fresh energy and star power, the public was quick to rally behind Clark's bold stand. Clark's announcement came during the All-Star draft broadcast, and the delivery was as bold as the message itself. With cameras rolling, Clark looked across to Collier and made the deal live. They would swap coaches, with Clark sending Reeve to Collier and taking Brondello instead. What made this moment so powerful wasn't just the trade, it was the clarity and confidence with which it was executed. No hesitation, no apology, just a player who knew her worth and refused to play under someone who didn't recognize it. Clark wasn't just assembling a roster, she was shaping the culture she wanted to be part of. Viewers were stunned as Clark sidestepped typical decorum, essentially firing a coach on national television with a smile. It was an unprecedented move in WNBA history, and while the league has seen its fair share of drama, never before had a player so publicly reversed the traditional power dynamic between coach and athlete. This wasn't rebellion for the sake of attention. It was control, strategic, deliberate, and done in a way that made it clear Clark is no longer a passive participant in league decisions. The contrast between Cheryl Reeve and Sandy Brondello is stark, and it's at the heart of why this trade resonated so deeply. Reeve, despite her decorated resume, has been increasingly seen as out of touch with the WNBA's evolving identity. Her criticisms of Clark's media presence and refusal to engage with Clark's Olympic snub cast a shadow over her leadership style. Brondello, on the other hand, has quietly built a reputation for trust, success, and harmony. As head coach of the New York Liberty, she led her team to back-to-back WNBA Finals appearances, proving her ability to manage egos, develop chemistry, and win games at the highest level. In swapping Reeve for Brondello, Clark didn't just remove a personal antagonist. She replaced her with a coach who aligns with her championship vision. Brondello's reaction, lighthearted and open-minded, was the exact energy Clark seemed to be seeking. A coach who celebrates the moment, embraces the players, and avoids unnecessary drama. For Clark, this was more than a tactical decision. It was cultural. It was about aligning herself with leadership that cultivates excellence instead of conflict. One of the most striking elements of the draft was Clark's precise and thoughtful approach to team building. She didn't just pick big names or media darlings. She built a roster based on loyalty, chemistry, and shared experience. Her first pick was Aaliyah Boston, her Indiana Fever teammate and close friend. That pick wasn't just strategic, it was symbolic, a way of showing that Clark values those who support her. Her next selection was Kelsey Mitchell, another Fever player and a crucial part of Clark's development at the pro level. By centering her core around those she trusts, Clark ensured that her all-star team wouldn't just be talented, it would be united. What followed were a series of calculated picks: Sabrina Ionescu, known for her shooting and composure, Satu Sabauli for her versatility and international flair, and MVPs like Aya Wilson, who bring not just talent but experience. Each pick was deliberate. Each one sent a message. This team is here to win, not just show up. And Clark made sure to avoid picking rivals, critics, or anyone who had previously slighted her. This was her circle, and the circle was tight. The finished roster read like a dream team. Clark at point guard, orchestrating plays with her trademark court vision. Ionescu at shooting guard, spreading the floor and creating space. Sabauli on the wing, providing length and defensive flexibility. Boston anchoring the post, dominating the paint, while Wilson offered a three-time MVP pedigree. Off the bench, players like Gabby Williams, Jackie Young, and Sonia Citron added speed, shooting, and defensive grit. The team wasn't just star-studded, it was balanced, fast, skilled, and experienced. This group didn't need time to gel. They already played like they knew each other. And at the center of it all was Clark, the architect of this system. The vision was clear: a high-paced, modern offense led by players who trusted each other and played unselfishly. It was a stark contrast to the sometimes disjointed, politics-laden rosters seen in past All-Star games. This team had one goal: win convincingly and make a statement about what the future of the WNBA should look like. The public response to the coach trade was swift and overwhelming. Fans flooded social media with support for Clark, celebrating the fact that she took control of her situation and didn't allow a coach who had previously disrespected her to continue benefiting from her success. Tweets like "Clark just fired Reeve on national TV" and "by Cheryl" trended within minutes. The reaction wasn't just humorous, it was celebratory. For many fans, this was justice. This was empowerment. Clark, who had previously taken the high road through every controversy, finally pushed back. And she did it in the most professional and effective way possible, by simply making a different choice. Meanwhile, supporters of Reeve were left scrambling to explain how a Hall of Fame coach could be so publicly dismissed. The answer was simple: Clark's influence has grown to the point where even coaches are no longer untouchable. The power dynamic has shifted, and the league is now grappling with what that means. Clark's decision to remove Reeve wasn't made in isolation. It followed months of conflict, some subtle, some overt, and symbolized the end of a toxic chapter. While Reeve may have underestimated Clark's resolve, the rest of the league should take note. This is not a player to be dismissed or downplayed. She's not just a rookie with hype. She's a generational talent who understands her power and isn't afraid to use it. What makes this entire saga so compelling is that Clark never raised her voice, never clapped back on Twitter, never engaged in public feuds. Instead, she made a single move on draft night that said everything. And as she stood beside Brondello, flanked by her hand-picked teammates, it was clear she was charting a new course, one built on trust, excellence, and accountability. Now, as the All-Star game approaches, all eyes will be on Clark's squad. Will this super team deliver on the hype? The answer is almost secondary, because in many ways, the game has already been won. Clark didn't just assemble a team, she took control of a narrative that others had tried to write for her. She reshaped the league's understanding of who gets to make decisions. And perhaps most importantly, she showed young athletes everywhere that you don't have to accept the systems handed to you. You can challenge them, reshape them, and, if you're good enough, rewrite the rules entirely. The All-Star game may be a one-night event, but the ripple effect from Clark's bold move will be felt long after the final buzzer. It wasn't just a coach swap, it was a revolution, and Caitlin Clark led it without ever raising her voice.